So here we go. We're going to jump right in. We're in Canada with my dear friend, Chelsey Hawkings, who assisted on my Enlifted Level 1 certification. So now we get to meet here in 3D.
It's so rad.
It is rad. It is pure rad. It is unadulterated rad.
Yeah.
Awesome. So to introduce my friend here, Enlifted wordsmith, magician and comrade, breathwork technician, mindset coach, mother, entrepreneur, freedom seeker, architect of greatness, magnet of miracles, wisdom keeper, and of course, last but not least, master, real craftsman extraordinaire. Oh yeah, and one more thing, a wild woman on a mission. Welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here.
Yes.
Bill, I'm so stoked that this all aligned.
This is perfect.
It's the best.
Yeah, this is such a wonderful opportunity. So to dive right in, first question for you. In your own brief words, can you share with the listeners what it is that you do for life?
I do. What I would normally answer is all of the things, but to go more into it, all of the things that light me on fire. That's what I do for life. So I'm a multi-soup pot stirrer of how many things can I get into, how many things. I'm a manifesting generator, so I like to have a lot of things happening all at once, very busy, lots of high energy shenanigans. I get into shenanigans. That's what I do for life.
I love that.
With all the coolest people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I collect people to do cool shit with.
He's corralling all the extraterrestrial Earth dwellers out there.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. You're multi-dimensional creative. I see that out here in the lab making super dank soups and serving up high quality nutrition at farmers markets, bringing community together out here at this tremendous mushroom farm.
At a magical mushroom farm.
Is it? I don't know if there's magical mushrooms.
There are magical mushrooms too, but we just don't
all
tell
mushrooms
everybody
are magical
about the magical ones. But there's some magical mushrooms here as well.
Wonderful. Awesome. So we have up to this point just been having phenomenal conversation, connecting about lifestyle and, what it is that we're crafting up and brewing up in our own individual spheres. And as I was reflecting, on your work and look, kind of scouring your Instagram and saying, what can we get into? What would be, something that she has embodied wisdom in? And of course you're in like you said, many different pots and you've obviously through your own path cultivated a lot within yourself to share with the world. And one thing that came to mind was to explore the subject matter of freedom. And because that's a lot of what we've been discussing up to this point and what's unfolding in Canada and your experience cultivating your own sovereignty up to this point in your life with your family, living in a tiny home and things like this. So a quote directly from your Instagram that I pulled is that I came here to free myself and show the world how great it can be. And I think that's a beautiful, simple encapsulation of, what it is that you're, what strokes you're laying down on the canvas of your own life and what it is that you share through the various modalities that you invest yourself in. So I would love to hear in your own words what it is that freedom means to you. And I think it would be cool to dive into a little bit of your journey finding freedom and how you've defined that within your own life and how you've embodied that in your own life through your various adventures and explorations in life.
Yeah, freedom is the utmost important thing in my life. That's the number one because everything stems from that. So without it, what are you? What can life be without being free? It's a very interesting path that I took to get to freedom, and I would say I'm still getting there. As we are, it's an all the time process. It's a stepping out of the cycles. It's a stepping out of the systems, bit by bit. So I didn't do it all at once. Obviously, I didn't just run to the woods. Although I literally have that tattooed on my body.
Is that what it's leaning towards?
I'm a McGregor.
Burning your birth certificate and getting rid of your bank accounts.
Potential. I mean, I've gone down the paths.
Yeah.
My maiden name is McGregor, so I have it tattooed on my family crest on my leg. It says, "Run to the wooded hills." That's our battle cry.
Mm-hmm.
But my plan is not to run to the wooded hills until the very, very end. To the very end.
You'd have to sacrifice a lot.
I'm going to run to the ocean.
The ocean's
a big boat.
For sure.
Freedom out there, man.
You live the pirate life.
The pirate life.
Yeah.
They know what's up. The pirates. Yeah. So freedom for me, I was a very well-behaved, structured, follow the system kind of person when in my upbringing. I did all of the things society. I checked off the little blocks on society's list of what I needed to do to live a happy, fulfilling life. And it was really when I had my children, I started thinking about how most of that checklist didn't make much sense. It was taking me out of my family to be with other people, to be with other people's kids at the time, and away from my children. And I was like, this is an interesting story that I've accepted, that this is normal, that I'm going to give my children to somebody else. Somebody else is going to raise them while I'm over here hanging out with somebody else's kids. Because for about 15 years, I was a dance teacher. Mm-hmm. And I really started stepping out of the idea that I had to do it this certain way that they told me. I'd gone to university. I had a university degree I paid a bunch of money for. I never used it. I was like, oh, this is fun. I'll just put this over here. I don't even know where it is. I mean, so I invested all this money in this story. And when I had my children, I was like, I don't want to be away from you. Like, I need to figure out how I'm going to stay with you. But also, you know how it goes. We sign up for all of the bills and the things that get paid. And at that time, we started creating our soup business, which allowed me to step out of a 9-to-5. It allowed me to step out of working for an employer and somebody who was basically controlling my time and also controlling my wage. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, look at this. I can decide how I spend my time. I can work the hours that I want to, and the amount I make can be limitless. It's how much do I want to put in? Mm-hmm. Like how many things do I want to pack up and take to market with me? Like I can make whatever I want. And before that, it was the story of like, this is your paycheck. This is what you get. These are the hours you work. Your time is the most precious thing, especially when you're as a mother, when you are lining it up and watching how fast it goes. Because once you get to a certain point in adulthood, I think you just think, oh, time isn't going by. But when you have a little person, you're measuring it. It's like, whoa, time is... Damn.
That's a portal.
It's a portal.
That's a game changer. Yeah.
Of expansion, of like, where did that decade go? Oh, but I feel the same.
I've never thought about that. How, I mean, obviously children are up there with the greatest teachers you can ever encounter.
But
I've never thought about how it can shift your perspective and understanding of time.
It makes you really realize that it is, other than freedom, it is the next most important thing, because without freedom, you don't get the time. Mm-hmm. And without time, what are we all doing here? Mm-hmm. What are we all doing here? So I was suddenly jolted into this reality of, I think I have all this time, but I'm watching it go so fast. Like I can't even, you wake up in a blink of an eye. And of course it's so cliche. People always say this, but until you're experiencing it and you're watching this little person literally shoot up, you're like, you don't believe it. And so I really got an opportunity in that time to realize that all of my friends were doing it this way, but I was creating something totally different over here in my way, and stepping out of those stories that had honestly been really ingrained in me. I went and did all the things up until that point. But the freedom that it allowed for me to be at home with my kids and watch them and not sign them up for daycare, not send them to like the babysitter. It was something that most people, I felt really, really grateful, like huge gratitude that I had the opportunity to experience it, because I think a lot of people do get trapped into the cycle and they don't believe that they can as well. And so part of my journey was just telling people like, no, oh no, you can do it a different way. Like, come see what I do. Come to the farmer's market, or come see that you can create your life virtually, is what we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a shift quite quickly because we were living a very busy life with our business. We weren't home for like an entire summer. We were home for 6 days one year. And we got home and I was looking around at everything and just thinking about how like unkept the yard was, how like it just felt quite chaotic at home because we were in a larger house. And I just didn't want it. I didn't want any of the stuff. I didn't want to put that thing back in its place again. And that journey took me down the tiny house living journey where I watched all these people living in tiny houses and I was like, oh, I like this. Like they don't have any things. It's amazing. And this vicious cycle to like consume more and to fill the space was not what I wanted. And my kids were already kind of on that route. They didn't really play with toys. They were always living under my feet. It was like we lived in one room of the house. Everybody was there and we were all together in this one room. And I just looked at that room and I was like, we could live in this one room. We need nothing more. And then we had a shift. The place we were living in, we had to leave. And it was at that point one night I was just laying with my daughter thinking about how I didn't want to pack everything up and take it all with me. Did I have to? And I came out of her room and it just said to my husband, what if we just got rid of all of it? What if we just got rid of everything and we like went tiny? And then we don't have to pack it and I don't want any of it. So this feels right. And so
was he on board right away? Was there any resistance or questioning of the decision of eradicating the physical items?
He
primarily speaking?
He questioned. Yeah. For sure.
That's good.
But also good. Great,
yeah,
right? Because we all
Are
need
we making
that.
the right decision?
We need that bounce back. And he definitely questioned it, but also the beauty of my husband is he has taught me so much flow in my life because I was very like, do this, X, Y, Z, E for like the beginning of my life. And when I met him, he was not that way. And we were very much opposites. So he really taught me to flow and just like, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. Everything's going to be great.
Yeah. We can just really latch on to things. And it like, Mark talks about this so much, just making the decision and the difference between the like fear of making the wrong decision and the terror of indecision when it's like, you can just hang out in this like limbo space of like, do I do this or do I do that? Fuck it. Let's just go.
Do it.
Let's just go and see what happens and make adjustments accordingly, you know? And that's so beautiful that you could really just move on from that and let's keep moving forward with where you're at there.
So we bounced the idea around and we came up with something that was going to allow us to flow. So we were going to give it a year's commitment of like, let's get rid of everything that we don't have any need for or care for. And we decided we were going to buy a trailer. So in the dead of winter, this is like January in Canada. It's like snow is on the ground, like really cold. And we decided we were going to buy an RV. So we went to the RV lot. We walked the entire lot. And I'll never forget, it was pouring rain. It was really cold out. And we were the only family there. Obviously, it's January in Canada. And we told the guy what we were doing. And he was like, because we made him walk like the entire lot and look at every RV. And he was like, you're going to live in this? And we're like, yeah. So we really are particular.
Whoa.
Like we're really like coming to check it out, like, and see the vision.
Was he surprised by the fact? He's like, are you sure these are kind of small? Or was that his thinking? He's like, people come to buy these for travel and vacation. You guys, this isn't a home.
And it didn't make it easier for him to picture it when it was like so wintry out either. So he was like, this is interesting, but I also could tell that he was down for it. So we walked the entire lot and we found one, and we decided, okay, this is the one. We had the beautiful opportunity to park it at my parents' house. So we parked it at my parents' house, and then we parked it there and we flew to Hawaii for 2 weeks. And we hung out in Hawaii for 2 weeks. And I just knew like when we got home, we had 4 weeks to get rid of our entire like accumulation of life. And after having the 2 kids and living at this house, we lived there for 8 years. We had a 2-car garage full. We never had a car in it. It just had stuff of shit. And like also the kids, like, the grandparents give them just obnoxious amounts of things. And so we took the time in Hawaii and came home, and it was like pedal to the metal to get rid of everything. And literally, like, we walked everything that we owned out to the end of the driveway, and somebody came and refurnished a whole house. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Good for you guys. And we got rid of everything. And so we moved into the trailer in March. And it was funny. It was the last snow that we got, and the ground was frozen. And in that time, we had everything everywhere in the trailer because it's very small. And I just remember looking at my husband and being like, did we do the right thing here? We signed up for this. Can you believe we signed up for this? And we were also at that time working trade shows that weekend. And so away we went. We got up in the morning, got ready, and off to the trade show that we went. We were both working at. And so we decided that if we could live in that trailer for a year, then we would go ahead and we would build a tiny house. Because if we survived it and we love each other and everything was great, then that's the route. That's the way to go. And we ended up living in it for the year. And at the end of that year, COVID hit. And we both looked at each other and we're just like, we're not going to build a tiny house right now. I don't know what's happening here. But we were happy, and we didn't need anything more. So we just carried on living in the trailer.
Let me jump in real quick.
Yeah.
What were the key indicators for you that signified that you were happy and that the decision that you had made was one of moving in the right direction? Was it very clear and tangible? I'm sure more so it was like how you were feeling on the inside, fulfillment-wise, connection-wise, being, actually, on a physical level, being much closer in proximity. And therefore, I would just imagine that so much more comes up in terms of challenges to navigate in the family unit. But at the same time, that being the most wonderful golden opportunity to really learn how to collaborate and work as a team. So I'd love to hear your perspective on like what it was that allowed you to be solid in your understanding of like, this is right.
I think it was, it was the connection of our family. And the fact that we only had one door. It was the bathroom door. The kids were sleeping in bunks and they had a curtain.
No privacy.
And then we had a curtain and a like a big TV stand. And it was the realization that like all of it, everything, life was still all happening in that small space, just like I thought it would. Just when I had the realization in the other house, we're living in just this space, but just how much closer. I bought this sign. I can't remember exactly what it says, but something like tiny houses allow you to be so much closer to each other because there's no walls and doors separating you.
Right.
There's no locking your child up into this like, okay, good night, you gotta go to bed, like click. It's like,
and you're gonna adapt.
It's more intimate,
much more intimate
in a way that you can't understand until you're living it. And then how I realized, for me, how weird it was to put the kids to bed, and shut their door and keep them in there. And I was like, that's so weird that we did that. I want to be with my kids. I want them to come snuggle me and I don't know, very intimate. I want my kids to feel comfortable no matter what. They can always have a conversation with me and always chat no matter what. And so it was just the realization that we were cultivating happiness in this tiny little space and nothing else was necessary, right? But that's the inner journey of understanding that it's always coming from within us and not an external source. And everything that we had gotten rid of was just external. And so at the end of the day, it was just us there and being happy together. There was challenges for sure, though. Definitely.
Oh, for sure.
There was moments.
Comes with the territory.
Yeah. But I also just had this knowing that this is what we were supposed to do.
Yeah. Wow. That's such a beautiful story of breaking free from the matrix and the programming of consume, 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 buy things to make yourself feel better. You are inadequate. You need the shoes. You need the t-shirt. You need the Air Jordans, whatever it may be. You need the Ferrari, you know, all these things that can be great when bought with intention. They can be toys that bring value to our lives, but it's so interesting how we forget what the pinnacle of the human experience is based off of like bullshit we've been fed through media and that's been handed down through the words of our parents and ancestors. And this is like a recent shift in human history where we've just like fallen off the path of valuing the only thing that matters, which is human connection and going all the fucking way with the people we love. We're like, we get to fully know each other, you know, and it's so cool to hear someone on that path that like made these, you know, not simple decisions, but simple in nature to a certain degree. We're like, we're just going to downsize our home. And through that, we're going to be a lot closer together, and how much value that truly, you know, brought you despite, you know, conventional thinking of like, okay, we're like losing a bunch of things. No, you're gaining so much through this experience.
Yeah. It was an investment in what we wanted our life to look like, really, is what I would say. Our friends and family thought we were nuts, for sure.
Yep.
They questioned us, and all I could think of was like, no, this is right. This feels right, and I know that there's a reason that this is all happening this way, because at the end of the day, everything else can be taken. And so it was this actually beautiful, beautiful moment of freedom where I realized that like, I have nothing, like, I don't have anything other than me, like me and my family, like us, and how we feel internally and our happiness. That's what I have. At the end of the day, that's what we all have. But like, you can take everything from me and I'm still happy. Like, that is what I wanted. That was what I was cultivating and looking for. And that's the whole motivation of exiting out of, like you said, all the bullshit, like material consumption, obsession, that we've fallen off of the track of like, at the end of the day, what does it matter? What does it all matter? It's love. It's the relationships. That's what is like our foundation. This is the foundation of your life.
That's
right?
The juicy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I find myself, I'm completely logically aware of this truth. However, due to, you know, various programs that have been uploaded into my consciousness throughout the years, I still latch on to externalities to soothe myself and to, you know, fill a gap within myself that can only be filled by the relationships of substance, by the love, you know, from creating things, whatever it may be, becoming a world-class jewelry artist. That's where that originally stemmed from, was like, I was a insecure individual because in high school, I just, you know, I had a bunch of acne and I didn't look at myself highly, and my self-talk was terrible, you know, and like all these external situations reflected back to me that I wasn't enough. So how was I going to be enough? I'm going to go be the best at this thing. Go through that process. Obviously that doesn't work. And, you know, still in an ongoing process of like really integrating the fact that the only thing that matters is the connections I have with other humans. And I know this, and I can still find my ego wanting to go grab this or that thing to try and like fulfill that need over like doing the thing that is actually the thing. So yeah, it's just interesting to reflect on my journey with that. And I imagine, well, yeah, no, for sure, so many of us go through that process, and I'm sure even maybe you to a certain degree, just in a more nuanced way, where like, I don't know, we pursue things outside of ourselves unconsciously to get love without really recognizing it. So it's just, it's an important topic.
For sure. And just what comes up for me when you say that is one of the brilliant things about living in the tiny living situation is that, you know, I can remember us like taking the kids out to the mall, or we're going to like some sort of like, I don't know, Home Sense, or I don't know, some sort of store where it's just like consumption. And like the recognizing that, like, when I have that feeling, like, okay, like, I just get to come back to myself, because I can't take any of that stuff home with me. I literally physically, I don't have any space. So if I'm feeling like, for whatever reason, it's like a very clear opportunity. I was like, oh, click. Okay, like, we're not going to go shopping because I can't. Like, what am I going to go buy?
Right.
It's like the calling myself back to be like, okay, what is going on here, and how can you make yourself feel better without what the world has told you is going to make you feel better, right? And that's really, I think, where I started investigating all sorts of other things and all sorts of other, like, it took me down the path of, like, everything, like food and fitness and breath work and cold plunging and grounding and nature. Like, it took me down every path. About, like, okay, well, instead of going to go consume a bunch of stuff, let's go consume some nature. Let's go outside and consume that instead.
It's almost like it's not even consuming, it's interacting at that point. It's not like you're, utilizing this thing and then it's gone.
Exactly.
It's like a union. It's a union process and like a co-creation with this element of the human experience. And this is so cool because it seems that, one of the foundational aspects of freedom is coming back to yourself, like you said, and being able to sustain that fire within, that inner fire of love, and continue to throw logs on it in ways that actually work versus ways that we may think work. Based off of what we've been told. So that's really cool just to recognize and important to note.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's always the journey back to yourself. Is what I've come to the conclusion of. I circle back of just getting to know yourself better, right? And this whole journey of life is just like you meeting yourself over and over and over again. I feel like I've lived about 1 million different lives, especially like with the entering into motherhood and like just so many things there that I've gotten to meet myself over and over and over and over and over again, and I continue to. But it's exciting because I don't know what I'm going to get into, what kind of shenanigans. I'm open to all of it, all of the shenanigans. Yeah. And at the core, it's the freedom to live my life exactly how I desire and how I want to. And there's so many people who want that, and so I like reminding them and showing them that it's attainable. And it just takes simple, like you said, it's just simple decisions. It is an investment, but it's a simple decision.
Yeah, the basic stuff pays dividends, and like the love is always there. The freedom is always there. How is it that we are in our own way of like just tuning into that frequency? So yeah, that's so beautiful. How is it that, so you're in the coaching industry. I know, like we mentioned before, you're exploring, multiple creative modalities and putting your love out into the world in, a multitude of ways. How is it that you teach people to do this exact thing? Obviously, we've got the words, and I know you've done, is it 023 Holistic Lifestyle Systems?
No, I actually I did a little intro with them, but I didn't.
Saw your face because I was like checking them out. I forgot how. I know they're connected with the Enlifted community, and your face popped up. And that was like right after Enlifted level 1.
I did like a special that they offered for like Enlifted coaches.
Sweet.
Right after my level 1, and I like hopped into that, and I was like, this is awesome. This is great. But at the time, I wasn't going really in that direction. But really, I think the first step for most of the people that I work with is through business, through them creating their own business, their own livelihood, because that's that seems to be the hardest thing for people to sort out, is like, how do I move from like knowing I have a steady paycheck and an employer into like owning my own ability to create the things that I need, right? Create the money or the whatever it is to pay the bills. So usually the people I'm working with are people who are either curious about business or how to start a business, or they are already a business owner. And then, of course, we all know what being involved with Enlifted, we all know what can get us stuck with not doing the things. It's always coming back to like our mindset, what we're telling ourselves about ourselves.
Yep.
And so I'm always incorporating the Enlifted method into reminding these people that they can do the thing. Like you can do the thing. And so it's beautiful how the Enlifted method
It's a panacea.
it just can work with in so many different ways.
Yeah.
But because I am a business owner in that certain industry and I talk to a lot of people, they're usually curious about how to make their own way in
Ooh,
this world and
that's
how to
it. And
yeah.
that's such a great place to start is like, I mean, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but most people that are coming to you, I imagine they want that sense of freedom to have agency over their own time and energy. And really that's such a foundational aspect of finding our own way, creating our own way, and living on our own terms is
Right.
how am I going to support myself
Yes.
financially? And of course, it's of utmost importance to be doing something that's in alignment with what we actually want to
Are
do.
excited
Because
about.
otherwise, you're a prostitute.
Oh, for
You're
sure.
a prostitute.
Like don't build a business that you're not excited about because
No.
you're going to have to like do the shit. Folks.
That's where I'm at with my jewelry business. It's like I'm on this trip and I'm getting the clarity and the confidence to be like, I'm like literally about to let this whole part of me just die. I'm just moving on from it. Like 8 years of building this thing.
I feel you on
and
that.
and then
I
the
hear
past
you.
3 years like latching onto it and going through all these, dealing with all these ego tricks of like, oh, what do we, if we just did it this way, not then it's gonna work, and no, you just need to change this and you're gonna be happy with it. And it's very tricky to discern because there's so many elements of it that are fantastic. I'm good at it, I'm familiar with it, I work with people I love, all these different things. It's a well-oiled machine, stuff like that. So
what's not there?
what's not there?
Yeah. Your
It
passion.
doesn't.
Your
Yeah.
excitement.
It just.
It doesn't give you goosebumps.
Nope. Nope. It's just a lot of resistance, and there's a little bit of enjoyment still. I love working with my hands and getting to create for people I love and make pieces that represent the love that is being created between couples and stuff like that. However, it served its purpose to the degree that it can in my life, and I no longer feel purpose in it. So that's the reason, is like I don't feel meaning anymore behind what I'm doing. And like I said, I've gone through all the different mental gymnastics to try and convince myself that this isn't true, when really I've just been, like denying my truth for quite some time now. And there's still elements of my psyche where I'm like, I don't know, it's a strange thing to go through.
Yeah.
Like pouring yourself fully into something for almost a decade and having your identity completely built around it. Thank God for Enlifted and getting to connect with people like you in the Enlifted community, because it shows me what is possible, and I get to like dip my toes in these other areas and recognize that this is what I truly love. This is what I have the most fun doing. This is what feels the most fluid. And this is the regenerative work. The jewelry work is no longer regenerative for me.
Right.
It is draining me. And it's sad to say, because it is literally a death process, and there's things I have to let go of, a lot of things I have to let go of within myself and externally, with all of that. But if I want to be free, that's what I get to do. And that's I'm just grateful to be able to have the resources within myself to make that recognition. And community has been huge in that, specifically Enlifted community. And the people I have back at home that I work with in holistic wellness. So, yep.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And I think there's a lot of business owners that feel the same way and feel like they're a prisoner of their business, which is not something that I ever wanted to feel, right? But it might for you just be like, hey, I'm putting you aside for now, and I might come back and find you later.
Exactly.
We'll talk again later.
I don't have to burn it to the ground. I can just be like, we're going to do some other things. And if I want to create for fun, I can do that. So that's where I'm at with all that.
Yeah, for sure. You might just be a, I don't know how to say it, but like, you're like in an in-between, but there might be like something within that jewelry business that slightly, you don't even know it yet, but it just slightly adjusts into something else. The reason why that comes up for me is I know that sure, I make soup as one of my businesses, right? But like soup, okay, isn't like the most fulfilling, like making the actual soup. The most fulfilling for me was the relationships and the conversations and all of the people that I got to go and talk to. So we would be working at trade shows or events or festivals or farmers markets. And the most fun I had was in the conversation with people.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting for me as we were going through COVID and like insane lockdowns up here and having most of those venues taken away. I really noticed that, like, okay, why do I love doing this? It's because I get to go and have all these conversations, and now that's what's missing. Like, I don't just want to make soup and put it in a box and send it out somewhere. Of course, we could do that. Sure, we could scale. We could be in all of the stores, but that's not what I want because that's not the fun part. For me, the fun part was getting together with people and talking to them and interacting and building the relationship. And so through COVID, it allowed me to be like, okay, how can I still feel that? How can I do that? And how can I still get that and do it differently? And what I started looking into was like all of the breath work, all of the coaching, like how can I have a relationship and how do I get to talk to people more? Because that's the fun part. That's what I really enjoy. Bringing people together, like I said earlier, like gathering the people and having like conversations and like not just the shoot the shit kind of, like an actual, like real, like let's get into it. Yeah. So not just surface level. And so that was really like a sign to me to like explore more. And what was lighting me up about that business was that kind of aspect. And so how could what other options were there for me to still fulfill that in another different way?
Is that how the coaching came about?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Because I had a girlfriend say to me, I see you on stage talking to a bunch of people. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. Okay, let's do that. She was like,
wait, is there any part of you that's like, fuck that, I don't want it? Or is it pure just like, yes?
Well, okay, so I used to be a dancer. I used to be on stage all the time.
You're hardwired for that.
I was like, I loved it on stage,
Sweet.
but speaking publicly was never my thing. So it was very interesting. I could get on stage and I could dance and I could perform, but I did not want to get up there and talk. And that was one of the interesting things that started shifting for me through COVID. I was very vocal. I was out. I just put myself out there. I was so loud. Like, here I am. If you're on my page, come on over. And it put me into several different scenarios where I was suddenly talking in larger groups of people, and I wasn't necessarily prepared for that. But here I was, like, standing at a rally, like, talking to people about things that were going on. And I was like, whoa, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I can because I've been on stage before. This is just a different way. And so for me, when she said that, I was like, well, that sounds like fun. I think I can get good at this and have a good time. Like, I think I could have fun getting back on stage again. That sounds like, yeah, okay, how do we do that? And so that was the very beginning of the coaching thing.
Where are we at on the timeline here for this sort of when this is all unfolding? This is so recent, huh?
I think it was probably like, maybe 2020, like very early 2021.
Cool. Start and keep going.
Yeah. But it wasn't surprising to me because I was I'm always like dabbling in new things. I'm like, oh, like, look, okay, let's do this. This is going to be fun. Like we've put on events, we've put on markets before. We've done like all sorts of weird things that people aren't expecting us to like have done. And so this was just another one of like, oh, I can get back on stage. That might be fun. I'll explore that a little. And then get into the coaching and then get into the Enlifted and then get into breathwork. All of it just like starts like coming together and allowing me to gather people and have these conversations that are so so rich.
Yeah.
Like really rich.
That's the word for it, for sure.
Like, and just like held, like so good, like the juiciness of it. And I was like, this is the best.
The best.
And more people can do this.
That's what draws me in. And the first time I got a taste of that was at the first Paul Chek event I went to in 2020, where I did meet Ryan Sprague and got turned on to Enlifted. And it's the same thing for me. It's the people. It's the people I get to connect with, the rich conversations I get to have, and what I discover about myself through the process, and how that creates this profound synergy of just like, something happens. You become electrified when you discover that this is a source of energy, and you're in these communities. You're like, where the fuck have I been my whole life? Why? And I'm like, obviously divinely guided to these events, and then continued to open those doors. And slowly, as I've continued to explore on a deeper level, more community gatherings, hosting my own, it's just like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the thing right here. It's easy to know because of it's just
because you feel it.
Yeah.
It's the energy of it. That is like the where they're like, oh yeah, this is what life is about.
Yep.
It's that energy, and just I want to do it over and over and over again on repeat. Right? Like that is the where the magic happens. Like it's magical.
It's back to the regenerative work. Like and that's regenerative for everyone. That's across the board, something we can all relate to. Some people a lot of people, we all have experienced varying degrees of connection, and, crossing paths with people where it's like, whoa, have we known each other for 20 years or something? What's going on here? Like, how are we talking about this already 5 minutes into our conversation? So I don't know where we all started with this, but yeah, it's just, you were talking about how there might be something left in jewelry for me, because you like what you recognized in your path with selling the soup was the people. And that's what I recognized was the jewelry work for me didn't have that incorporation of the connection I needed to keep going.
Right.
There's other variables that are no longer in alignment as well, but that's one of the things where I, through coaching and bringing community together to explore different wellness modalities and share the good word of, just being healthy, being like thriving, how can we thrive more? We come together and we do things like this. People have been doing this for many years. We just have forgotten this is the way. So yeah, it was like, as soon as I started putting myself in these scenarios, it was just like, oh, obviously, yes.
Obviously, yeah.
Except all the programming that had been hammered into my brain for so many years was like, but jewelry. And yeah, it could still fit into my life in some way. However, it's very clear. It's clear as day that I know what it is that serves me most moving forward. And what serves me most moving forward is what serves others most moving forward. So yeah, that's a cool recognition of my journey based off of what you just shared.
Yeah. And how beautiful that we're having people open up to the idea that they can live this life and share their gifts. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's the remembering. People are remembering that, like, oh, I have something to share with and come back to the village. Come back, like you said, like this happened a long time ago. We used to gather, and we used to hold space for each other, and we used to, like do all of these things together, cook together, live together, like all of these things, and they've just separated us all and put us in these tiny little boxes, telling us to do it independently, all by ourselves, and that's what life is about. And it's a remembering I'm watching happen with people who are coming that I'm just collecting, that are coming and remembering like, oh my gosh, there's like community, and like these people like actually care, and they want to hear what I have to say, and they want me to share what I have on my heart and what I can bring to the table. Right? It's like beautiful. It's like a magical tapestry that comes together.
Yeah. And it's just so simple. It's just so funny how simple it is and how people oversee it. I don't know, people get trapped in a web of communities that live in a certain way and they think that's the right way, and their belief systems are continually echoed back to them because everybody's thinking the same way, and like, this is how we just live life. This is the scope of life. This is what it is. We go to the bar on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We hang out. We get hammered. On the weekdays, we wake up. We pound coffee. We eat a piece of toast. We go to work for 8 hours. We get home. We watch Netflix. We jerk off to porn, whatever you're going to do. And then you pass out. And you spend 30 years doing that, and some people do that their whole lives, and like, it's no judgment. This is just the truth of the matter for a lot of people in modern day society. Like, this happens to people because they don't ever get to the opportunity to find themselves in a situation where somebody illuminates that magic in them, like you're talking about. We're like, oh, you have something beautiful to share, and all of you is welcome, and there are other ways of living, and you know, and it's interesting how the connection ignites that awareness. You know, when you come together with community and you're like, oh shit, you live that way? I didn't know that was a possibility. I didn't know you could live in a tiny home with nothing. You know, not nothing, but you know,
pretty much nothing.
Pretty much nothing. Yeah. So, you know, it's so cool. I mean, that's why travel's huge, and like, just really putting yourself out there and seeing what happens to your perspective. Because if you're not adventuring and you know, putting yourself in the arena of what else is out there in the world, then you won't know something different than your own life. It's really the only way.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, and that was one of the other things where we were traveling. The freedom that we were creating was allowing us to go travel. And so people were always saying to us, oh, well, how are you guys able to travel all the time? And we're like, well, do we just make
all the time?
We just make that happen. Like, what do you mean? We just do it. That's part of our life. And they're like, well, how do you get like time off? And I'm like, no, you can do this too. Like we create our time off. We decide when our time off is. Like, I create my schedule. And so it's really like, can really mix people all up, like get them all like, woo, if they start talking to us like for a couple minutes, so they figure out like how we're living. It's quite opposite. It's very like out of, for me, it's like, this is my normal, but it's very out of what a lot of people are doing. And so it's exciting to be like, oh, you can do this too. And they're like, what? How could I? And then I'm like, okay, come on.
Let's talk.
Let's go.
Let's sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Like, what it lights you up? What are you excited about? And then let's go from there, because that's what's going to fuel you forward.
That's the fuel. What is it that you love, and how can you materialize that in your reality?
Yeah.
And if it's the thing that's meant for you, whatever the how is, you will be able to overcome, because
Absolutely.
It's the thing for you. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, we are we have unlimited potential, and we can execute on whatever it is that we want, as long as it is something that we truly want from our heart.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're meant to do.
This is it. It's the I am my opportunity. I am my opportunity.
Yeah.
Over and over again, right? Meeting yourself back again. Oh, like, and maybe that opportunity shifts. For a while, your opportunity was making jewelry, but like, your next opportunity that is who you are becoming and what you have to share, right, is your next opportunity. And so it's just like reminding people of that, like, well, all of the opportunity lies like right within you. And so let's dive into like, what's exciting to you, or like, you know, what did you used to do that you don't do anymore?
Yeah, that's a
right?
good question.
Like, for me, it was like, I used to dance all the time. And it was a path choice of like, am I going to go be a professional dancer, like on stage somewhere, or am I going to follow this path and like have a family and like do all of those things? And so this is like a circle back of like, oh yeah, I could go do that again. It sounds fun. I might, circle back to that idea and see. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Be open to whatever comes.
For sure.
Because that's where all the best stuff comes from.
It's true. Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a great conversation.
Yeah.
This is so fun.
It's been awesome.
This is our first podcast, guys.
Maybe
you're tapped in.
You're
tapped in. You're tapped into your love, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe you become a podcaster. You are a podcaster now.
I'm a podcaster now.
You're a podcaster.
Okay.
Right now.
Right now, in this moment, boom, just became a podcaster.
A podcaster. That's a part of your identity now. We got the farm owner cruising
We've got
by, the magician,
a mushroom man,
the wizard, the
moving
lab
by.
technician, growing what does he grow? Lion's mane,
all sorts of fancy mushrooms,
And
gourmet mushrooms,
magic mushrooms,
There's been some magical ones,
some magical ones.
all of the things.
That's been crazy being here. Not to like get too far off track of what we were talking about, but
also
to get into Vancouver and recognize I can go buy the most powerful psychedelics on the planet, like I buy a case of beer. That's strange.
You're
That's
telling
strange.
me.
That's so weird.
We have so many rules and so many things that aren't rules. It's quite interesting, right? It's very like polar. It's like we are so regulated and ruly on certain things, and then you can go like buy cocaine right there at the shop and like carry on.
That was one question I forgot to ask him. So why don't you sell ketamine, MDMA? But okay,
right?
listen to this. So I just like got my mind blown as soon as this came into my awareness, and then I go online. There was this guy that had like a little cart, and he sold meth, he sold heroin, he sold cocaine, he sold MDMA out of this cart. He did it for like 2 months. Last month he died of an overdose on fentanyl. So it's like, but I mean, his whole thing was harm reduction, and totally get that. I mean, people should have access to these substances. I don't know. I think some regulations would be good. We don't need, that's a whole nother conversation. We don't need to go into that. Talk about freedom. You can go into a store, you can buy crazy, psychedelics here in Vancouver.
It's a lot. It's one of those things that's very confusing, I think, for a lot of us Canadians who are living up here and going through some of the rules over here and then the not rules over here. And it's like, this is interesting. We can do this, but we can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite polar for us up here. It's like, what's going on? Who is running this shit show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. You would know more than I do. It's a good question.
It's quite fascinating.
Mm-hmm. It is very fascinating. So, to ground this in practicality here, I would love to hear, and I know the listeners would love to hear, what's, one first step someone can make to acquiring more freedom in their lives. I know we covered a lot. I feel like this can really ground it down for an action step people could take towards, finding that within themselves.
I think the very first thing that I would recommend and that comes to mind is starting with their physical and mental health, because nothing can come out of you if you are, for lack of a better word, clogged. If you're clogged, like if your system isn't clear, you're not going to be getting the clear messages, the clear downloads of your next steps, even what you're passionate about. So like really a detox of your life in terms of everything. So like your food, anything that you're consuming, the people that you're hanging around with, so that you can get yourself really clear on where you want to go. Because otherwise I think you're just living in a lot of confusion, and that would be my very first suggestion, is like an untoxing. Maybe not a detoxing, but an untoxing of like, let's look at all of your areas of your life.
Untoxify.
Yeah, untoxify. And so that you you can find your voice, find your intuition, because that is where it is all going to come from, right? Every step that I took was, I couldn't explain it to somebody. It was a knowing. I know that I have to do it this way. I couldn't explain. It wasn't logical. It was just, this is what I'm meant to do this way. And until a person has kind of untoxed themselves, they can't hear it. They hear all of the noise, like, oh, you can't do it that way. Oh, why are you doing it like that? Oh, ooh, like all the judgment from all of these other people. But when you're like grounded and clear, and that's it. And then you start and keep going, right? So that's probably the first place I would start, is just like good old, let's untox everything. Let's look at everything.
Let's drink some clean water here.
Yes.
Let's go for a walk every day. Get some sunshine in the eyes and on the body.
Earth. Yeah.
Basics.
Yeah. Very basic. And then start from there, because then you'll start getting the messages of like, oh, okay, wait a second, I thought I liked this, but like actually I don't. Like
It's another portal right there for sure.
This is it, right?
The physical freedom is foundation, because that's anyone I know that is in, you know, the realm of mindset and emotional intelligence and understanding themselves on a metaphysical level. It's always been like physical, you know, I started lifting weights or whatever it may be, or I mean, yeah, people.
It's something to do with, it's your body. It's like your physical vessel.
Yeah.
That you're operating this whole world through. And if your body isn't in a like tune, how can you expect anything else to be? Right? It's very, very basic.
Yeah.
But we've gotten so far away from it. Like we are so far away from health.
Oh.
It's like wow, right?
It's wild.
It's wild.
We look like mutants compared to what we
it's
overarching majority.
And it's so tragic.
It's tragic.
Like it's so tragic because no wonder all these people are so lost. Obviously, like that's one of the things when you're talking about going into the city, and what comes up for me is like, man, and I don't mean this in like they're like in a I don't mean this in like a judgment way, but like literally they're toxic. They're toxic.
Toxically overloaded.
This is it. Like it's just it's festering in their body, and it's because of their way that they're living, and the EMFs and the Wi-Fi and the water and the concrete.
Yeah.
There's no nature. Like this is the situation. They're so far from nature, and we are nature.
We are nature.
The further we get from it, like the more we can't figure out what to do next. Right? And so it's like as soon as somebody comes back to their body and is like, okay, I'm going to take care of you. You got to walk me through my life.
Yeah.
It's a different story. And it's really like, then they hear their soul again.
Yeah, that's it. Like you got to back to getting out of your own way, starting with the body. It's low hanging fruit. Yeah.
It's the first step to freedom, because then they want better for themselves. It's like somebody has to want better for themselves. And if they can't even imagine that because of the body that they're in or the mindset that they're in, I mean, it's a system. When one part is off kilter, and the whole thing is going to be off. And so I think that's when people start, when they're having like that huge life crisis where like suddenly they've been like a diagnosis, or like suddenly they're very sick, or there's like something that just like jolts them. It's usually some sort of physical situation, and
for
then
the most part,
watch them get busy. Right? It takes like this massive, it's unfortunate, but it takes a massive like wake up call for a lot of people.
Yeah, some people they need the sledgehammer from the universe, and some people need multiple sledgehammers.
And then some people just find their way there.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah,
maybe it's a conversation with you or a conversation with me.
Exactly.
Right? And then they start being like, wait a second, I could do this too.
Yeah, like for me, when I think about creating freedom in one's life as just one of the most pivotal steps you can take, is you got to find the people. You got to put yourself in a community that is living in alignment with the caliber of individual you want to be. Absolutely. It becomes so easy to let parts of you die that don't serve you when you're surrounded by people that are in the identities in which you seek. It's to recalibrate your identity around the right crowd. It's just, it becomes, there's no effort. Because we mirror each other on a biological level. There's so many things, so many exchanges of information happening on an unconscious level. Just, it removes so much effort. Because we're so connected.
Right. I mean, this is it, right? And so in that untoxing, like, who are you hanging out with?
Yeah.
What are you guys doing socially? Like you were saying, like, what are you doing as a social group? Like, what is your social activity? Is it going to the bar?
Yeah.
Or is it like going on a hike?
Going on a hike,
right? Like, is it
walk or
going to the lake?
Board game night.
Right. Like,
play charades.
This is it, right?
Yeah.
It's different. Is it, maybe it's like it's just a circle. It's just like let's come together and like actually like talk and like have tea. Like, right. And so it's, absolutely getting into those environments because the energy is different there. And that's the energy that you're searching for that energy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this has been so good.
good.
Chelsey, thank you for
Thank you
sharing
so
your love with
much.
us and your
Yeah.
wisdom.
I'm so
And
happy to have you here.
such an honor to connect with Enlifted community member, fellow human being on the path of coming home to love and sharing love with the world. Speaking of love, I would love for the listeners to share where people can find you, how they can inquire working with you, any plugs you want to do.
Yeah. I think the best place is on Instagram at Simply Living and Thriving. All my information's on there. Email me on there or just send me a DM. I always look at the interesting DMs that come through, all of them. And that's the best place to find me for right now. And yeah, you can always find me at a farmer's market if you're local.
Yep.
If you're in the Vancouver area.
If you're in Canada, come find this woman and see what she's up to. Big things in the works.
Yeah.
Big things in the works.
Yeah, and I mean, that's no joke. Like, I love getting together, so come find me in person because that's where the most fun happens.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, definitely
Perfect.
on Instagram. Yeah.
All right,
Awesome.
y'all.
Thank
we
you
love
so
you.
much.
Thank you for being here with us, and we will see you next time. Smooches.